course, all of that is kind of dependent upon our ability to observe or witness without modifying or coercing, without narrating. So with this, please bring your hands together at your heart. And we'll chant the chant that I'm using during our immersion for the 5th chakra. So it's Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Shakshat Para Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Let's begin. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Shakshat Para Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Shakshat Para Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Shakshat Para Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Hari Om, Hari Hari Om. May that inner principle that moves us from darkness to light, from stagnation to vitality, from forgetting to remembering, may that principle, which is also a part of our creativity, our sustaining, and our dissolving, may we have a good relationship with these principles during our yoga practice, and may it lead into the day as well. So in preparation for a longer period of sitting for a seated practice, we're going to tend to the hips and the legs first. And to do this, some of you are going to want to have a yoga strap. I'm not having a yoga strap because the yoga strap is in use. It's holding up a plant in the house. I would also like you to have a couple of yoga blocks. You can put one to each side of your mat. And please lie on your back with your knees bent. Of course, it's true that I once had 100 yoga straps, but they're in storage at Yoga on Yam Hill right now. So I don't have 100 yoga straps at home. Right, so we're going to start with the feet hip distance apart, the knees parallel, and just check that you have the space where you can roll your knees down side to side, so your blocks are not going to be in the way of that. And also that you have the room to reach overhead. Nothing is going to impede your arms there. And so as you begin with the feet and knees hip distance apart, come back into your relationship with the breath now. And as you next exhale, press your right thigh forward towards its own knee, and notice that your left hip will get more grounded. And then inhale, level that off. And exhale, press your left knee forward. Notice your right hip will get more grounded. And then inhale to level that off. Now exhale, press your right knee forward and drop your left knee out to the side. And then inhale to level that off. Exhale, press your left knee forward and then drop your right knee out to the side. And inhale to level that off. So even though you're dropping your knee out to the side, the first action is sustained. So take the right knee forward as you drop your left knee out to the side. Inhale to center. And think of the belly as bringing you back so that it's like rotating your pelvis as if it were a steering wheel. And then inhale, level that off. Now we're going to add one arm at a time. So when you next exhale, send your right knee forward, right arm overhead, and drop your left knee out to the side. And then inhale to bring that back to center. Exhale, send your left knee forward, left arm overhead, drop your right knee out to the side. And return that to center. Switching sides. Remember the power of synchronizing so that as you're aiming to synchronize, that's more important than how far you can physically move. Of course, you can use your full range of motion, but orient your attention from the Annamaya kosha into the pranamaya kosha, the breath body. And notice the influence that has on the manomaya kosha, the mind body. Do it one more time, left knee forward, left arm overhead. Now take your arms out into a T shape and put one block between your knees. As you've got the block between the knees, now keep the block there between both knees. So you have to rotate on the outside edges of your feet. Okay, let's breathe in while we're centered. And then exhale both legs down to your left. So the left foot just rotated to the outer edge of the foot. Inhale, roll to center and place your right foot where you picked it up from. Exhale, rotate to the outside edge of your right leg. And inhale to center. Now exhale, knees left and nose right. Inhale to center. Exhale, knees right, nose left. Inhale to center. Again, knees left, nose right. Continue synchronizing and notice how smoothly you do that. So each part of the breath being smooth and the movements also, to the extent possible, are smooth. When you're going down to one side, that leg is slowing down your descent using the inner thigh. When you're rising up from that side, the belly and that inner thigh are helping to bring you back to center. So when you're going knees right, the right inner thigh is working with the belly. When you're coming back up to center, again, the abdomen and the right inner thigh are working together. Go once more in each direction, please. And then roll to center and pause a moment. Now float your knees up to center so they come in towards your chest and your heart. And let's keep the block between the knees. So now your knees, when they go down to the side, are going to be more snugly going down towards your elbow or your armpit. And so breathe in. And then exhale and take your knees down to your left. And inhale, rise up to center, noticing the inner belly and the inner thigh. And exhale down to your right. Take your nose to the left. Inhale to center, noticing the abdomen, the inner thigh of the right leg. Knees left, nose right. And to center. And let's keep synchronizing now for several more moments. Notice the variations of sensations that are moving through your body, left to right, and how you kind of savor those sensations, welcome them at the very least. And try to notice what happens in the pause at the end of the exhale. What happens with sensation when you place your mind in the pause at the end of the exhale? When you next come to center, go ahead and place your feet back on the floor. Pause and notice the unaltered breath, your resting breath. And then reach for one of your blankets. Let's take this blanket and fold it so that I'm going to put mine in thirds. And I do want you to have it be wide enough that when you're putting it under the back of your pelvis, that you have enough space left to right, so that you're not going to fall off the blanket when you go side to side. Bring the knees in close to your chest. So the reason I folded mine in thirds is that I wanted it to be a little bit higher, and the blanket's not going to support the entire sacrum. It's really just supporting the top of your sacrum. And you're likely to feel this very firm blanket. When you fold it in thirds, the edge of the blanket is going to be more firm. I'd like you to feel that across the top of the ilium bones. That is the top of the pelvic bone. So that's right through here. Okay, so put the arms out in a T shape. Now the knees come more easily to the chest because of gravity. Let's exhale both knees down to the left. Inhale, roll to center. Exhale, roll to your right. Inhale to center. And again, focus your mind on the smoothness of the breath and the synchronizing. But very specifically today, notice what happens with sensation when you're in the exhale pause. What happens to your mind in relationship to sensation when you're in the exhale pause? The next time that you come back to center, go ahead and pause there and touch your feet back down to the floor. You might have noticed there that those practices were really supporting from the first chakra, then second, then third. We're going to go back down to the first. Not that any chakra can be isolated, but you may have noticed that that was kind of climbing up the inner body there. So now I'd like you to keep the blanket under your hips, please, and make your feet as wide as the yoga mat. Take your arms again into a T shape. And then let both feet come down to the left, both knees come down to the left. So both feet are going to rotate. You're on the right inner edge of your foot and the left outer edge of the foot. Press your right hip from the back to the front to open your hip flexors there. And let's exhale. Use your low belly to float your knees back up to center. The knees can act as if they were seaweed in the ocean being moved by the current. And let's take both knees down to the right. And as you come down to the right, energize your left butt. So you're going to press into your left hip flexors on the front side. And then exhale, use your belly to rotate back to center. Now let's go knees left, inhale, and nose right. And exhale, return to center. Inhale, knees right, nose left. Exhale, return to center. Notice your exhale pause. Inhale, smoothly into the inhale, knees left, nose right. Exhale from the belly to roll to center. Noticing the exhale pause as you arrive, and smoothly go to your inhale, knees right, nose left. Once more to each side, please. So inhale, knees to your right, nose to your left. Now float your right knee up to your chest and place the left foot just so it's straight out from your hip joint. Okay, and as you exhale, take this configuration of the legs down to your left. Roll up to center. Try the other side, please. So what you might be noticing when you put the right foot straight out from your hip joint, as you come down to your right, you might feel the blanket at the right outer hip and thigh. A little bit like you were on a foam roller, and you're welcome to do this on a foam roller. You're going to be feeling the kind of rolling of the outer hip joints right here. So if you know that you have not fallen off your blanket, that you have it set up as you want it to be, then we're ready to begin. So let's use the right knee to the chest first. So we're going to take the legs down to the left side to begin. So with your inhale, knees to your left and nose to your right. And then exhale, roll to center. Notice the responsibility the belly has when you've got one leg picked up like this. Change during the exhale pause. And inhale, knees to your right, nose to your left. Exhale, roll to center. And change during the exhale pause. Inhale, knees left, nose right. Notice the exhale and the strength of the exhale to be consistently smooth as you return. Just Switch the legs during the exhale pause. Inhale to your right, nose to your left. Switch again, we'll do this twice more. Once more to each side. And then touch your left foot back down. Return your mind to the resting breath, the unaltered experience of the breath. Some of you might find that the exhale pause lasts a long time and there's no mental concern about it. Now we're going to take this same blanket and I'm going to ask you to slide it down your mat and to put it lengthwise. This is where you're going to need your yoga strap and your 2 blocks. We're going to put this yoga blanket down the mat to help us know where is the center line for the left leg. And then take one of your blocks and place it to the outside of your right hip. So you know that it's going to be there. It's right close to the outside of your trochanter. And when you bring your right knee up to your chest, have your yoga strap close by. But when you raise up like this, keep the inseam of the left leg, including the inner edge of your heel and your arch, against the blanket. And then take your right foot up to put it in your strap. Or for those of you who have the hamstring flexibility for it, you can reach up to hold the big toe if you like. And bring your mind into the smoothness of the breath. The breath is like a kind mediator between the Annamaya and the Manomaya kosha. That is the physical body, the mental body. The breath is between them, supporting the conversation. Now, while having a yoga block to the outside of your right hip, start to open your right leg out to the side. That means that the block should be there and it's going to feel a little bit like it's interrupting you or supporting you, depending on how you interpret that. And lengthen through the inseams of both legs, the inner seam. Keep the left leg lined up against the blanket. And your left hip grounded, right? It's just able to stay more rooted with the block to your right side, under your right hip. Notice any subtle changes in sensation happening breath to breath here and start to become interested again in what happens with your mind in relationship to the sensations during the exhale pause. And slowly glide your right leg back up to center. Bend your right knee. Put the block aside. Cross your right ankle onto your left thigh and open the right knee out to the right. And do your best to keep the hips level. Take your arms overhead. Now, with the hips level and without overarching your lower back, it's highly unlikely that the right knee is going to reach the floor here, and it's not required to touch. So see what you can do with the stability that you need from the center of the pelvis. Lengthen your right thigh from your hip towards your kneecap. Notice as you sustain the stability of the pelvis and the reach of your arms and your right thigh, you may be getting a little opening, a gentle opening in the right iliacus muscle, which is inside your ilium bone. That is the muscle that's interior to your hip bone. You could also say your pelvic bone. That might be more accurate, in fact. And then lower your hands down. Raise your left knee up with your right ankle attached to it. Reach between the legs and hold your left hamstring, if possible, to support your left thigh, supporting your right ankle. And go back inside the realm of sensations and really sense, how does your breath support you to feel into those sensations? And what is your mind's relationship to sensation during the exhale pause? And then slowly place your left foot on the floor. Keep your right ankle on your left knee. Press down into your left foot and raise your hips up. So this is a one-legged bridge pose. Press the right knee open. It may not go very far. You can press the shoulders down. This is really the lower hemisphere of your bridge pose. It's not as much lifting the chest or the heart as it is focusing on the legs. Do your best to keep the pelvis level. And then roll your hips back down to the floor. Okay, and place your right foot flat on the floor next to your blanket. And let's check that as you lengthen your right leg out now, the blanket is there for the inseam of your right leg. It might have to be moved slightly because it was there for the inseam of your left leg. And so line it up for your right leg, please. Make sure you have a block there for your left hip. And bring your left knee up to your chest. And come back into the simplicity of the breath here. We have the luxury of really giving attention. Notice how much available concentration you have for the smoothness and the pace of the breath. And take your left leg up. Reach up for the toe or hold your strap. Notice again, what does your mind do in relationship to sensation during the exhale pause? And start to open the left leg out to the side. As you reach into that, the block is there to support you. It might feel to some of you like it's impeding or preventing you. I don't want your pelvis to roll to the side. And so as you continue opening, you do have some very direct support right outside the left trochanter, the outer thigh bone. Give yourself a chance again to really just quietly observe this kind of moment to moment sensory field with a particular focus this morning on what does your mind do in relationship to sensation during the exhale pause. And raise your left leg back up to center. And bend your left knee, place your foot flat on the floor. And then cross your left ankle over your right thigh. And keeping the pelvis level, let the left knee open and come down whatever amount the hip joint will allow it to do. Keep your arms overhead. If you have difficulty keeping the pelvis level in this position, let me just say a few things about that. If it's hard to keep the pelvis level, you may have some tightness or a change of function. I don't want to say dysfunction, but in your left hip joint. And so when you open the left knee, it feels like the hip joint is taking the whole pelvis to the left. But actually, I do want you to keep your right hip grounded, and that's going to come from a balance in the pelvis and the hip socket on the left side. Not just the strength in the right low belly, but the function that you have in your left hip socket too. And lower the hands back down, and let's bend the right knee, please. And you're going to be picking up the left ankle with your right knee. And then reach between the legs to hold the back of your right hamstring with both hands. And notice again what your body does here with the sensations. What does the breath do in supporting you in that? How does your mind respond? Now, keeping your left ankle on your right knee, place your right foot back on the floor. Press down into your right heel and your right toes and raise up to a one-legged bridge pose, doing your best to keep the pelvis level. Press the left knee open whatever amount it's able to do. Your shoulders can be firm, but they aren't a significant support right now, since we're really doing the lower hemisphere of the bridge pose. And then roll your hips down and place your left foot on the floor next to your right foot. And let's come back to noticing the unaltered resting breath. And then please roll to your side. Come up to sitting. Just a moment, please. Okay, let's put the two blocks at the front of the mat. Reserve your blankets aside. And so keeping those there, check and see when you reach back to child's pose from here, is at a comfortable distance. And then you're going to use the low belly to bring yourself up to kneeling. Is that a comfortable distance? Check that there's nothing behind you that you're going to hit your head on. I'm also checking. So you know where you are. Okay. Interlace the fingers. Inhale to go up. Okay. Exhale, push out. Place your fingers behind you. Place the knuckles, the heels of the hands. Inhale to go up. Exhale, rise up and sweep forward to pranam with your hands on your blocks. Inhale, cat pose. Cow pose. Over the knees into seal pose. Exhale, table pose becomes pranam or child's pose. Using the low belly, inhale, rise up to your seat. Clasp your hands together. Again, inhale, rising up. Exhale, push out. Fingers behind you. Inhale, roll open. Exhale, come upright and reach forward. Inhale to cat. Cow. Seal. Table. Becoming child's pose, also called pranam. Inhale up to kneeling. Interlace your fingers. Okay, same thing one more time. Last one. Inhale. Push out. Exhale. Inhale, back bend. Exhale, up and forward. Inhale, cat. Cow. Seal. Table becomes child's pose. And walk your hands back towards your knees. Use whatever you need to kneel on comfortably in Vajrasana. Rest your hands in your lap. Noticing the unaltered breath is the commitment, where you might also notice that when the mind can be with the unaltered breath, it's also not at the same time being with its own thought factory. And that when thoughts pull you away, you forget about the unaltered breath. Now I'd like you to take one block behind you and a blanket in front of you. And the block behind you is so that for those of you who don't have long arms, when you clasp the hands, you're able to press down against something. And then we're going to be exhaling to come forward. We touch the forehead down and we're going to roll up. That's a variation on the pose that sometimes gets called rabbit pose or hare pose, H-A-R-E. So with the hands interlaced, roll your shoulders back, give a good strong squeeze to the upper back. And then inhale, reach your arms back while you're staying upright. Exhale, touch the knuckles down, open your chest, your heart, and your throat. Stay here for the inhale. And now exhale, bow forward, squeeze the breath out from the low abdomen to the upper, and then inhale, roll to the crown of your skull. And then exhale, hips to your heels. Again, you're squeezing the breath out. Inhale, rise up to kneeling, squeeze the arms back. Exhale, touch your knuckles down behind you, come into the back bend, and use the inhale while you're here to lift up through your chest and your heart. And exhale, squeeze the breath out. Using the shape of the pose to support that, inhale, roll to the crown of your skull. And exhale, hips down. Inhale, rise up to kneeling. One more time through. Exhale to your back bend pose. And inhale to light up your back bend. And then exhale. Squeeze the belly like you're closing the harmonium. Inhale, roll to the crown of your skull. And exhale to come down. Squeeze the breath out. Shoulders back. Inhale, rise up. And then release the clasp of your hands so they rest in your lap. Notice the unaltered breath. You can drop right into it. And the quality of your mind for witnessing that. And let's take our 2 blankets and the chair now. for this supported version of the shoulder stand that we've been practicing. Now, let me ask those of you who have not been practicing this, if you are new to class today, if this is an unusual experience for you, what we're about to do, um, today is not likely the day to experiment with it because I want to give you more complete instruction than we are doing today. So in that regard, if this looks totally strange to you, you're like, oh my God, what I would recommend is that you practice bridge pose as a way to get the benefit that the other students they've been learning this all summer. So that is my recommendation. You could practice an elevated bridge pose by putting your shoulders on your blankets and then your feet on a couple blocks, for example, if you want a bit of an experimentation. Okay, so what's going to happen here is that in a moment, I'm going to straddle this chair backwards. I'm going down to a supported shoulder stand. And that's going to become a supported plough pose, and that's going to become a supported one-legged plough pose. So please watch for a moment. First, you straddle, like I said yesterday, like a bar stool. And then you take the legs up over. You want your clothing to be slippery enough to come down off of your chair, but you also don't want to pull your hair. And you don't want the edge of the chair to be profoundly firm and painful against the back of your sacrum. So where I have this right now, my shoulders are totally supported. They feel great. And the way the chair supports, it's not at a place where the bones are most preoccupied with the metal of the chair. And that becomes supported shoulder stand. And this becomes plow pose. And that becomes a one-legged plow pose. And then that becomes a movement back to the supported shoulder stand. Okay, so please come down when you're ready to. And again, if you're just practicing bridge pose because you're learning this right now, that is totally fine. Everyone has the learning curves and the building blocks or the stepping stones to move towards more complex yoga poses. And a complex pose is not required to experience yoga. Just that we're using this one right now because we've been building towards it through the course of the summer immersion. And so with both shoulders anchored, firmly anchored to the blankets, and a good firm hold on your chair, you come into supported shoulder stand. Let your mind rest inside the simplicity of the breath. There are going to be various sensations, including the sensation of more pressure in your head because of the blood supply. This is a wonderful place to stay. And so for anybody who wants to stay there, of course, that is your choice. Others who would like to, you could come down to supported plow pose. And you may raise the right leg straight up if you choose. Return it down. Take the left leg up if you would so choose. This is something that you build your stamina for over time by practicing. This is your first touching into it today, so bring the left foot back down. And then bring your hips back towards your chair. Keep the shoulders snugged under. Bend your knees to the top of the chair for the toes, feet of the chair for the feet, without pulling your hair and without making the blankets all funny. Come down off of your blankets and come to rest in this waterfall pose. I just tipped my chair with my feet because when I elevate the hips like this and then put my knees up on the edge of the chair, my feet are able to tip it slightly so the feet are still a little bit higher than the knees. Yeah. And watch your body recalibrating from a time of either bridge pose or shoulder stand, whichever your choices were. Now watch how the unaltered breath takes care of itself. So right now your body is doing a lot of important inner work. Let the mind be as restful as possible. Depending on what your needs are within you, you could imagine revitalizing the digestive system or balancing your hormone system, nourishing your immunity, giving support to your brain, or any particular sort of renewal that you sense that you need. Welcome the process to continue without any interruption or distractions from you. allowing for this process to continue a short while more so that the rest is something that your mind, your heart, your brain, and your body are all being nourished by. Let yourself get very still. Ask the mind not to intrude, not to distract, hijack, detour you. Now, allowing the mind to stay very quiet, just slide your knees towards your chest so that they fall towards your shoulders. If you'd like to give them a little support, you can do that. It's not necessary. Roll down to one side. And come to your seat, please. This is for our seated practice. You can rest your hands in your lap to start. And observing again the unaltered breath to see if you can sense the inner alignment of your body, not just the structure, but a sense of the chakra system. Let's take the hands to the first chakra mudra, please. We use the ujjayi breath in between the sounds of the chant. We'll do 5 times, and then there's a long ujjayi breath, and then we repeat that. So let's begin. Lum, 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 lum. 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 Second chakra. Wum, 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 wum. 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 Wum, 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 wum. Third chakra. Ram, 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 ram. 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 Fourth chakra. Yum, 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 yum. Yum, 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 yum. Yum, 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 yum. Yum, 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 yum. Fifth chakra. Hum, 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 hum. Hum, 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 hum. Hum, 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 hum. Hum, 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 hum. For the sixth chakra, please bring your hands up for bhramari. This is the M sound of the sound of Om. Please breathe in. Please release your hands to your lap. And take the left hand to the mudra for the heart chakra and the first chakra. Right hand up for nadi shodhana. We'll just do 3 rounds, which is 6 breath cycles. Begin with inhale left, please.
When you have your next exhale through the left nostril, or you're completing one now, and you can return your hands to your lap. Notice the possibility of the mind being a bit more still, the body being upright effortlessly. Please raise your hands to your heart. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha, Namaha, Namaha. Thank you very much, everyone.